some introductions. Each panelist can say your name, where you work, what brought you to the industry, and why you choose to stay in the industry. Brandon, go ahead.
Perfect. My name is Brandon Barksdale. I am a social equity license holder, cultivation standard out of Central Maryland. Formerly was the CEO of a retail operation here in Maryland, Remedy, and also helped run a vertical out of Colorado. So plenty of experience, but I'm happy to be here.
Joshua Horn. I'm a partner at the law firm of Fox Rothschild in Philadelphia. I co-chair our cannabis law practice group. I got involved in the industry as pure stress. I had to get out of litigation, having litigated all my career, and I thought I'd do something a little less stressful, and I went into cannabis. And here I am, 9 years later.
Christina Bettancourt Johnson. I'm with Standard Wellness Maryland. We have a couple of licenses in Maryland and also serve on the CanMed board as well as USCR's board. So I'm really glad to be here. And why do I stay in this space? I think there's an enormous amount of opportunities still in cannabis. And so excited to be here also.
I'm Sakara Barnes, and I am based out of California. I have a cultivation distribution license and a brand that I just launched in Maryland, and it's called Mother Exotic Flower. So the reason I entered the space is to create opportunities not just for my family, but for our community, to be a representative in our community. From a female minority standpoint, I wanted to open more doors for people like us to come through. And I think that we're doing that. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Christina, I'll start with you. Our neighbor to the south, Virginia, will be rolling out its own adult use program, hopefully sometime in the near future. What lessons might they take from Maryland? What did we get right with our rollout? What do you wish we would have done differently? And how quickly do you think it will take for Virginia to come online?
We've got regulators in the room, John. So Maryland did a really good job. No, we actually did do a good job, I think, with our transition to adult use. I think we did an excellent job, and I think it's due in large part to the trifecta that sort of existed between government, that's obviously our governor on the executive side, and our legislature and our regulators, the business community, and then the general public. And so everybody was very active, engaged early, and we had a very effective, I think, set of work groups to refine and decide what would work well in the state of Maryland. And then we also, I think, secondly, pivoted when things did not work well. And I think our new leadership is doing her level set best to be very responsive when things are not working well. And so I would say early and active engagement from all of those different stakeholder groups is critical in making smart laws. I think the second thing is being able to pivot and refine. I mean, I think that's absolutely critical. So.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Josh, clinical research. Rescheduling is a real possibility, which would open the door for more research. You do a lot of work in Pennsylvania, which has a clinical research license. We currently don't have one in Maryland. Do you think we should? What might that look like? And what lessons could we take from PA?
I think it's a great program, and when the Pennsylvania law was adopted in 2016, it was supposed to be the crown jewel of the entire program. And so the desire, in fact, was to have these clinical registrant permits issued before all the other permits, but there was a fair amount of litigation, things got delayed. And so the concept is there's 8 teaching hospitals in Pennsylvania, and they contract with a licensee who then gets what's called like a super permit. So they get a grower processor permit, and they get up to 6 locations for dispensaries. And so under the auspices, they have a contract with the teaching hospital pursuant to which they're going to do clinical research on cannabis based upon the patients who are in the program through these clinical registrants. The program has not been as successful as I think everyone expected and wanted, but there is research being done. We've worked with clinical registrants, and one, in fact, has at least on the Department of Health webpage has notated various research projects that they've done. Unfortunately, there's not a link yet to those projects, but I assume they will be made available at some point. And so I think in Maryland, it's a unique opportunity to be at the forefront of research because, we all know the federal government has held it back. I think for many years it was just Mississippi State that could grow like this much cannabis for research purposes. Where in Pennsylvania you have 40 dispensaries and 8 grower processors who that is what they're supposed to be doing and are doing, because if they don't do it, then they run afoul with the regulator to maintain their permit. And so I think it has some success. I think it'll be more successful as it matures. But I think there's a real opportunity here in Maryland with a good regulator, with a lot of research in the greater metropolitan DC area where you have NIH and other health-based organizations to really make it something real, even more viable than it already is.
Thank you. Sakara, new market entrants are being asked to make longer-term fixed commitments to real estate build-out costs, to loans if they can find them, to employees, to consultants, and yet most people in the industry are saying that the key to success is maintaining flexibility with your contract partners, flexibility with your employees, because things will change. Things will change every day, if not every month or every week. What have you learned along the way to help market participants maintain flexibility in this environment?
Well, we all know that change is one of the only things consistent in this space. So what I've learned is to just maintain partners that have allowed flexibility, shorter term contracts, like creating shorter term contracts and partnering with people that understand that and that understand the industry. If they don't really understand it, then they're not willing to be flexible with you. So I've vetted, I feel, vendors and partners and the people that I've worked with have allowed for that and are open to that. And I think that that's one of the most important things is being aligned in that way. I think having also just being transparent in where you are as far as like what your cash flow looks like. It may vary from market to market, and some vendor or partner that you may have or your realtor may look at Maryland's market and compare to that, and you're trying to get real estate in California, and it just doesn't, it's not the same. So being educated and keeping those conversations pure, and I think that has helped me, and those are the things that I lean on when I'm looking for flexible partners and vendors to work with.
Thank you. Brandon, taking into consideration Christina's advice that there are regulators in the room, and also recognizing that you're in the process of standing up new operational businesses, what things about the licensure process going from conditional licensee to operational licensee have surprised you in a good or bad way? Did you discover any new bottlenecks or challenges that you did not think would be part of the process when you submitted your application?
Yes. I think first, I didn't mention, but my background has been public accounting. I was in management consultant in a firm for 12 years. I got assigned cannabis outside of my traditional kind of private equity background. And I always thought that one of the most exciting things about the space is that it was constantly evolving. There was things changing all the time. And it wasn't until I actually got deep into it where I was like, oh my God.
Not so exciting anymore.
Exactly. So, I mean, we get hit with twists and turns everywhere we look. And when you're standing up a new program, like a social equity program, that just runs true and true. And so it's been challenging. Somebody mentioned something earlier today, like competency meeting like bureaucracy, and then it being on both sides of the field. I think, regulators have had a challenge like trying to create competent regulations, like in an industry that's constantly changing and evolving, that has market challenges and market demands. And on the other side, from a social equity program, people actually having the competency to understand the regulations and being able to, actually move forward in a process that is, very, very compliant driven. And so I would say that some of the biggest blockers for us has been access to capital, obviously. It's just been a challenging environment. We have a lot of regulations that were meant to protect us, but then at the same time are also creating a lot of barriers for us to be able to seek funding to make this continuously be an attractive space. As second movers advantage, a lot of the first movers are also spoiled it for us. So all the green rush and excitement that was there years and years ago, has played out, and people are becoming more and more conservative about how they lend and approach the space. And so you have the lack of experience tied with the need for capital, tied with the highly regulatory environment, and economies that are constantly changing and very volatile. That creates a very challenging place to stand up a business. And I think, right now, and that's just one of the areas, I think right now people are trying to find the best way to navigate that. So I think, to Sakara's point, there is a way for us to continuously be creative and to think outside the box and to move in a way that does allow for us to continuously push the envelope forward. But I think it's a collaborative process. And to Christina's point, being able to work with the regulators and being able to sit side by side and really come in at that grassroots level to be able to push that momentum and message to try to get the best path forward. I mean, Maryland has done a really good job compared to other markets that I've experienced and operated in. So I think we are ahead of the bunch, but it's a constantly evolving process. So it takes like an agile process for us to continuously make that positive progress.
So this is a question for the whole group. Given what happened last week with the redefinition of hemp and the regulation or contemplated regulation of intoxicating hemp products, we would be committing conference malpractice if we didn't discuss the topic a little bit. So what effect will last week's developments have on the licensed market in Maryland, given the fact that the legislators and the regulators already thought about these issues before by choosing to empower the MCA to regulate all intoxicating cannabis products, whether they be marijuana or hemp, given the fact that we already have an ATCC that is leading the charge on enforcement, do you think that Maryland will fare differently or get a head start on some other states? Christina, you look like you have some
Me?
thoughts. Sure.
I was just thinking the lawyer might want to go first on this one. I do think that we have a head start because I think that this was contemplated in the state. We just recently had a judgment, I think, in the cannabis sector's favor in that regard. I think there's still more work to be done. I think I heard Jesse on an earlier panel talk about the ability to capture the clients who were once purchasing hemp products. And I think that that's a huge opportunity, though I don't think it will be an easy one. And this is one of those things where if we are effective at working with our regulators and working with our elected officials, we might be able to sort of pierce that advertising veil that we have and work jointly to really go after that market. And it doesn't have to be buy her products, buy my products, buy our products, but it could be an educational campaign. I'm about to date myself a little bit, but how many of us remember sort of the cracked egg in the frying pan? This is drugs. These are your brains. This is your brain on drugs. That was at the time, a modern nationwide campaign that was incredibly effective. And if we can work with a legislator and a body of regulators who is supportive of joint campaigns to educate people and tell people where these dispensaries are on their phones. I want them to go online and click and find our dispensaries when they're, going through Facebook or using any of the meta platforms, right? When they're on Google. I think we could have a winning strategy, but we've got to reach people where they are. And right now they're on their phones. They're accustomed to clicking a button and ordering flowers, food, everything else. We've got to be able to effectively reach people. And I think it's going to start with communication and us being able to work some things out on the advertising side to take advantage of this hemp change.
Any other thoughts?
I think it's tremendous opportunity because whenever there's change, and even if people don't like the change is opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's those who are willing to pivot and challenge and seek out the opportunity are going to be successful. I think Maryland is uniquely situated because it has an adult use program. Because a lot of people who otherwise would need cannabis for medical purposes don't want to get a card because they're afraid of the stigma of having a card. And so what do? They go on the street and self-medicate. And so by having a robust adult use program, which Pennsylvania, where I live, does not, it really creates an opportunity to bring these people into the fold of going into a dispensary, of getting a regulated product that they know is safe and it's not laced with fentanyl or some other material. And so I think the change is tremendous opportunity for those who are entrepreneurial to take it.
I think that, piggybacking off of what Christina said, I do believe that education is super important to this. I think a lot of normal consumers just don't understand the difference between hemp and intoxicating flower versus non-intoxicating cannabis. Or cannabis. The plant is all the same. So once we start to educate the customer more, I think that this will collectively help both industries. I think that the cannabis industry right now in Maryland is obviously going to positively be impacted by this because all of those customers that are in DC and that are going to these smoke shops and don't understand the difference between just going to a smoke shop and getting hemp and then going to a regular dispensary, they don't understand the difference. So now that this is forced upon them and this has now been forced on them, they have no other choice but to go to the dispensary. So I think it will positively impact them. I think it will negatively impact the businesses and the people that work for them. So thousands of people will be unemployed and thousands of businesses will be out of business. And I don't think that's fair. I think that there has to be some way to do this to help there has to be a pathway forward for both industries to be able to live side by side. I would hope.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. I think that there was a loophole, and I think a lot of people jumped through it and really took advantage of a time that wasn't fully defined. And I remember looking at like the Super Bowl one year and like seeing a varied product of cannabis, and I was like, I cannot believe that this is happening right now. And just from, selfishly from, having had operated retails and seeing like how that customer gets pulled away because they aren't as knowledgeable or they see a smoke shop and assume it's regulated the same way because of the lack of education. It's something that I think should come back to the regulated markets that are paying taxes or the regulated businesses that are paying taxes and actually going through all the structures that are in place to make sure that good products make it to customers. So, ultimately I see the overarching, impact, and I think that there's a way or a path to bring those products back into a regulated structure. But for the time being, I think the Band-Aid being ripped off is going to be helpful for a lot of businesses at the moment.
I think we'll figure it out, as we figured out every other forced pivot in this industry.
Yep, absolutely.
And if I would supplement and perhaps challenge what Sakara said, that the hemp industry employees are going to be unemployed. I think they're going to be reemployed. I think you're going to see a combination of talent, combination of real estate, a combination of capital, and this could turn out to be good. I know that others in the room might disagree, but it is an opportunity, and I hope we use that opportunity wisely. Switching gears, another question for the whole group. The 5-year transfer restriction in Maryland has generated a lot of discussion, some controversy. This year, we were able to modify the rule to allow transfers in the case of ESOPs. Do you think we're going to revisit this 5-year transfer restriction in the next legislative session, and what might that proposed change look like?
Well, I'll take the bullet. I think there's an opportunity to do it. It should be. I mean, I thought, 3 years, the way it was when it was a medical program, I mean, that was challenging, but it was not as challenging as the full stop, absolutely not right now, unless death, receivership, court order. And I have no idea what a court order means. And we had worked on a transaction where we were going to use a confession of judgment, which is a tool as a court order to get equity back. And the feedback we got was that was not going to be well received. But it was a court order. So, it's very challenging. And I think it's really stagnated the market because you can't people who want to sell can't monetize. And it's just delay. And I think that, I would vote for, if I was a Maryland citizen and had a vote on the subject, I would vote to at least shorten it to the 3 years, which it was.
Any other thoughts? Next question.
I think, next. I think your question was, do we think it'll come up again in the upcoming legislative session?
I think it will be.
Questions, right?
There will be discussion in each and every session. That was sort of a loaded question. It will come up.
It will.
Yeah.
Yes. I was just going to leave it there and say yes, John. That was my answer.
All right. Next question.
Okay.
Christina, you've been operating your business since before the change in the effective tax rate took effect. Have you seen any change of the increase from the 9% tax to 12% tax affect either your sales or the number of registered medical patients?
I think that's a great question. I would, and I'm speaking only on behalf of my business right now. We have not seen a big change, quite frankly. We have not seen people jump to become medical patients to circumvent and, paying taxes on their purchase. And we haven't seen a decrease either in the number of clients that we've had. So to keep it brief, no, we haven't seen a change. I mean, the business has, but not in purchasing patterns, right? I mean, but not in purchasing patterns, no.
When we sit together next year at this panel, what do you hope we will be able to say is the biggest success story of the Maryland program for 2026?
That I got open.
There we go. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
I think the grant funding is also definitely helping jumpstart a lot of businesses. Social equity, the social equity department is, I believe, is amazing. I'm not in it, but I am closely connected to a lot of applicants, and I feel that they'll all be open in time. And I think also the fact that they're changing or potentially giving them the extension on their deadlines is also going to be a positive thing next year for all the operators.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add something besides my selfish thought. If we can say this time next year that we've seen a constant growth, that we've seen a steady pace of customers, regardless of all of the economic impacts, all of the new businesses trying to come to market, and still see that steady growth in our market, I think it's safe to say that there's a very, very strong playbook for what a successful cannabis adult use market, what it should look like. And I think if we can continue to push in that direction, then I mean I think that would be a really, really good 2026, and we should take that on road.
At least in my observation of trying to watch what's happening in different programs across the country, I think that people in every program would say that progress is not expected in all cases. It's not linear, it's not guaranteed, but if you move in the right direction for a long enough period of time, you will find success, and Maryland is absolutely no exception. We, I think, are leaders in the country, and I think that people can really take pride in what we've accomplished and what we're planning to accomplish in the future. So I think we'll, unless you guys have any final comments, we'll give everyone back 30 seconds. Good.
All right, everyone. And here is the last panel of the day.